Bombshell tonight in the Nolan Wells investigation. Tonight, the timeline seemingly blows up. This as Nolan's mother is investigated. Why? And tonight, possibly even more important, where is Nolan's phone? Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. We want the truth about what happened to Nolan Wells.
A Bertram boat was seen leaving shortly afterward at a high rate of speed. Pretty certain Nolan Wells was part of a group that was, quote, almost fighting around 5 p.m.
I'm on the side of finding out why everybody got back to the mainland except Nolan Wells.
I don't think they've cooperated at all. They do not have Nolan's phone. They haven't had access to Nolan's phone. The Jackson County Sheriff's Department has it. So how can you say that there's text missing or there's photographs missing? Our boys had no reason to do anything with Nolan's phone other than give it back to Christine and her friends later that night. So anything about missing text messages or Snapchats is completely false.
Big question. That is Tyler Cox representing the so-called friends of Nolan on Horn Island. And if he's claiming that no one see the phone, how does he know that something's not missing? So that's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Let's hear that one more time from our friend Dan Abrams.
I don't think they've cooperated at all. They do not have Nolan's phone. They haven't had access to Nolan's phone. The Jackson County Sheriff's Department has it. So how can you say that there's text missing or there's photographs missing? Our boys had no reason to do anything with Nolan's phone other than give it back to Christine and her friends later that night. So anything about missing text messages or Snapchats is completely false.
That's a veteran trial lawyer. That is Tyler Cox. He's representing the young men that were on the boat that took Nolan to Horn Island and came back without Nolan, according to them. Joining me in all-star panel, I'm not saying Cox is right or wrong, but what I am saying out to Brandon Tatum. Tatum, former police officer, Tucson, star of The Officer Tatum on YouTube. He has interviewed Nolan's acquaintances that were on the boat that day. Officer Tatum, thank you for being with us. Let me talk about this one moment. We've got so much to get to. I'm going to try to be brief. Tyler Cox stating, I don't think they cooperated at all. I think he's talking about Nolan's family. They, I guess the sheriff's office, haven't had access to Nolan's phone. Well, can't they subpoena that? It's called a subpoena duces tecum. You're familiar with those. You've testified in court. A subpoena duces tecum is, we hear about subpoenas for testimony. I've been subpoenaed. Yes, go to court and tell the truth. A subpoena duces tecum is for an item, an object, a document. The sheriff can give out a subpoena duces tecum or get a warrant for an object. So, you don't have it? Fine, get it. Next. So how can you say I'm quoting, how can you say there's no text message or photo, as a text message or photos missing? Our boys had no reason to do anything with Nolan's phone other than give it back. So seeing anything about missing texts or Snapchats completely false. Well, according to the mom, Officer Tatum, she says that there was nothing sent out while Nolan was at Horn Island, which she found very odd. I have no reason to disbelieve her. So how can you say there were missing or there weren't missing? I don't think you can say it either way. Why don't they just get a search warrant and go get the phone? You know what? Forget all that. Officer Tatum, where is Nolan's phone? Do authorities have it?
Well, from my understanding, authorities do not have it, and the family have not been cooperating with authorities to give the phone over. According to the testimony or written statement from the lawyer that represents the family, the Nolan Wells family, He had made mention that he's prepared to cooperate, but they have not cooperated yet, which is very interesting to me. You want to find out what happened to your son. You would think you will be doing everything you can to cooperate. I can't judge her. I don't know what's in their mind, but it just seems to be very off-putting for them not to at least give the phone over and do what exactly they told the world they were going to do, and that is to allow a forensic extraction of his phone. Therefore, the world can see if there is things that have been deleted. I think Tyler Cox is very clear about what he's saying, that the boys had nothing to do with it. So if there is anything missing from the phone, it had nothing to do with them. Now, I'll add this. When you look at what Christine said.
Brandon, whoa, I'm going to go right back to what you're saying, but you're saying a lot, and I want to address each thing so we don't leave anything out. Number one, you just stated that, basically. Correct me, you can paraphrase this any way you want to. It looks really bad for Nolan's family not to hand over the phone. Do you have any independent knowledge they have not handed over the phone?
According to their lawyer that wrote a statement, and the statement was, we're prepared to cooperate, but that was as of the 11th. Therefore, they have not cooperated. Tyler Cox has made mention that he don't believe they cooperated whatsoever. He don't believe they cooperated whatsoever as well. So
extrapolating. You're taking the words, Tatum, that their words that they're prepared to cooperate to mean they haven't handed over the phone. Isn't that true?
I'm putting everything together, right? We have Tyler Cox that's coming out and saying that he has no indication whatsoever they've cooperated. The family has not come out and said that there's any findings. And then also the attorney that represents the family is saying that we haven't sent or gave the phone over, but we're willing to. And that was as of the 11th.
No,
so it appears that there's no indication that.
Brandon, you may very well be a lot smarter than me, but I can hear. Okay. The statement was, we're prepared to cooperate, I guess from Crump. That does
I'm not
not
sure
mean
if it was.
We have not handed over the phone, but we will.
Well, Nancy, when you put it all, you have to put the totality of circumstance together. I'm not there to be in the room with the investigators to determine, but I'm just going off of what knowledge we have and that's been given to us that's available. And what Tyler Cox is saying, and I'm taking him at his word, he's saying that there's no indication that they've cooperated. The lawyers that represent the family is saying we're prepared, but they did not say that they've cooperated whatsoever. So I'm looking at the statements that are produced, and all of the statements indicate that there has not been a cooperation with the phone being extracted from investigators. Therefore, there is no true determination that things were missing from the phone. Well, I mean, we have no other. We have no other. We have nothing else to go off of.
We're prepared to cooperate. For all I know, that means we'll come in for questioning. We'll let you search his belongings. It
Nancy,
can mean anything. That does not equal we have not handed over the phone. But hey, you know what?
Nancy, it's been weeks.
You say tomato, I say tomato, because it kind of doesn't matter, and I'll tell you why it doesn't matter. Actually, I'll let an expert tell us why it doesn't matter. To Heather Barnhart joining us, digital forensics expert with Celebrite. We learned all about Celebrite during the Alex Murdaugh trial. That's how we got everything off of his dead, murdered son's phone. And the SANS Institute, SANS. She is one of the preeminent digital forensic experts in the country. She helped crack the Brian Kohberger case, and she is co-author of Practical Mobile Forensics, now in its 4th edition. That means that many people have used it. Heather, thank you for being with us. If the phone, I don't care where it is. Okay, actually, I do care where it is. I want to know that it's been handed over. I don't have to have the phone to know what's on the phone if it's in the cloud. It looks like an iPhone to me. So my argument with Officer Tatum is academic. It doesn't matter if I can get it from the cloud. So Nolan's phone missing. So what? I can download it. I can get it.
Data will exist in the cloud if he's syncing to iCloud and third-party applications. However, having physical access to the phone is where the databases exist that will have the truth on deletion. So you really need to get a full file system extraction of his phone as quickly as possible. So if it's not handed over to authorities now, it needs to be, because this was over a month ago now.
Do you have to have the phone to do the extraction? What about the cloud?
Cloud data is different, and there's a lot of information there. There could be unique information in the cloud that's been removed from the phone, if anything was removed, but it's best to have both cloud and the phone to paint the entire pattern of behavior and to see the truth.
Heather Barnhart, please don't move. Back to Officer Tatum joining us. Tatum, obviously, we want the phone. I think you can download it from the cloud, but she's the expert. She's saying it would help to have the phone. So don't you understand why? And I'm not saying this is true. I don't know that it's true. I don't know that CETO call is real or fake. I don't know. It's murky. Tatum, when I would try cases, especially complicated cases, I would start out the trial with a big jar full of water and silt. And I had it sitting big on my counsel table day one, right beside my Bible. And in closing arguments, the first thing I would do when I started closing arguments, I'd take that jar and shake it. And it would get very murky. You couldn't see anything. And I'd sit it down on my counsel table and argument would commence. And by the time I had gone through all the evidence, I'd go over to my table, pick it up, and say, see, it's not muddy anymore. It's crystal clear what happened. My point is, we don't know. So all the haters attacking you, attacking me, attacking the cops, attacking the friends, attacking Nolan's mother, for Pete's sake, we don't know. It's unjustified. Now, to my question. Don't you understand why people are suspicious? Because Nolan's separated from his phone, which no teen does. I get it, why he didn't have it in the water. I get that. I dive, I swim. I just went swimming with the dolphins with my twins. And yes, my phone was on the boat. But then I got it. I didn't let the boat take off without it. So at least you can admit that's why people are curious. I'm curious.
Nancy, I think it's because people are out putting out misinformation and they don't have the totality of circumstances because they haven't heard from the boys, didn't watch the interview and all of this stuff, and they feel that it's convoluted. It's very straightforward to me and very clear in many areas that the boys are saying they did not have access. Christine, Nolan's mother, is not saying unequivocally that things were deleted. She was surprised that things were not present. Therefore, she insinuated that things may have been deleted. But she did not really say that the phone was deleted. And the fact that they did not communicate with both sides, meaning that I wish that the Nolan Wells family would have communicated with these boys instead of me, would have talked to their lawyers instead of me, then therefore they could have gotten a good perspective. The boys made mention in the interview that I did with them that they told Christine, Nolan's mother, that they had his phone and his keys in their possession. Therefore, she came to get them. They turned them over. They have no access to his codes. They have no reason to delete his phone. They're claiming there's nothing that was deleted. They gave a fair explanation as to why he left the phone on the boat. Nolan wasn't the only individual to leave the phone on the boat. He wasn't the only black person to leave the phone on the boat. So that, to me, dispels the racial component. He was with them. Multiple boats came out. Traditionally, if you don't leave on a boat you came on, you can leave on another boat. They're all going to the same location. So it's not that bizarre that he left his phone. The phone was returned to Nolan. These are best friends of Nolan. They hang out almost every day.
Hold on just a sec.
He spent the night over their house.
I appreciate everything you're saying, but now we're getting to another topic. I hear you, but Tatum, the boat. Has the boat been searched by cadaver dogs and scent dogs?
The boat, from my understanding, has not been searched, and the cadaver dogs were made available for Benjamin Crump to utilize them to do a search on the boat. They refused.
No. Crump is not supposed to use the dogs.
There is no reason to search
everything on Crump.
Listen, Nancy, there's no reason if there's not any evidence of a murder, there's no reason for them to use the cadaver dog. That's how this works.
True.
There's none of these individuals they do not have any expectation that there was any murder that occurred. It's just other people are putting that out to the world. The police department is not investigating the murder. These boys
Okay,
are not suspects.
I agree they're not suspects. They're not persons of interest. They're not suspects. They haven't been charged. But
To believe after interviewing 60
Crump
people that he
cannot
was ever on the
order
boat.
the search of the Triton, the Triton.
He's not
It's not
he's
his
not
boat.
ordering it. He's not ordering it. The cadaver dogs were made available
can't.
if he wanted to. No. They made themselves availed themselves to him and said, "Would you like us to search the
you
boat
just
for
said
you
that
to get
about Nolan
information?"
Wells' mom. Now you said, I almost hate to do this to you. Almost. Tatum, you just said when Crump says we're available and ready, you meant, well, that's no, they haven't handed over the boat. But now you're saying the friends say our boat's available and ready, and I'm not
No,
going to tear
that's
you
not-
a new one
that's not-
because
that's not-
the law
Nancy,
enforcement
that's
is
not
the
the-
one that needs to go and search the boat.
Nancy,
it ain't rocket
Nancy,
science.
the people who had
What?
the people who had questions about this, because it's definitely not law enforcement. It was Benjamin Crump. They wanted to get to the bottom. They don't
Oh,
trust
wait a
law
minute. There's
enforcement.
not a grand
So-
jury? This isn't
Well,
going
no,
to
I'm
grand
saying-
jury?
I'm saying initially before grand
Because
jury.
if it's going to
Nancy,
grand jury, then there are questions.
Initially before grand jury, when this first started, and Benjamin Crump brought up all of these questions, and they made them availed themselves to him and said, "Would you like for us to search the boat? We'll grant the cadaver dogs for you to go and look at the boat." And he refused. And this is why I'm saying it does not
can't
appear.
give authority to search the boat. I
He
can't
can.
say,
The boys are
cadaver
cooperating.
dog, I want you to run over to Tatum's house and sniff the hell out of it because it's
I would
your
say,
house.
come
I
on
don't have
over. I would say,
standing.
no. I said, come on over. The cadaver dogs are made
Okay.
available. But then Benjamin Crump said, well, we don't want it. That's the problem
minute.
here.
Wait a minute.
They are not
Did
pursuing
the families
like they claim they are.
say, here's our boat, come search it? Did the families offer the boat up to
They
search?
offered boat, phones, whatever investigators needed, whatever the family needed, they made it available. The family did not pursue any avenue to connect with the boys on any level. The boat, to talk about timeline, to communicate with parents, to communicate with lawyers. They have done nothing. And then now we find out that they haven't even given the phone over to law enforcement so they can do an extraction or a
It's
forensic
not-
investigation.
Well, stop.
So
stop.
that they can see
You
if
know
there was
what? I
something
respect
deleted.
you, but I'm going to have to cut your mic because we have to be clear about something. Hold on. Philip Dubé joining me. He is a veteran trial lawyer, a defense lawyer. He's joining me out of LA. He practices criminal and constitutional law. Dubé, I don't want to hear either a prosecution or a defense side. A citizen cannot force a search on somebody else's boat. So Crump or Mrs. or Nolan's mother, they cannot force a cadaver dog or a scent dog search on the Triton. Law enforcement needs to bring out a cadaver dog and a scent dog. It's just real simple. It's not hard. Do you agree? They are the ones with authority to do that.
Of course. A lot of these thought leaders and
Explain.
crusaders, the thought leaders and the crusaders can all request it and make sure that there's an in-depth, thorough investigation, but they cannot physically and personally initiate it or enforce all the procedures that are necessary to get that underway. One thing they can do, though, is go to the DA's office and ask that it be included as part of the grand jury investigation. Because believe me, Nancy, a grand jury starts investigating and wants all of these materials, including access to the boat, access to the cell phone, it's going to happen. Otherwise, they will suffer the pains of contempt of the grand jury.
Dubé, my point is Crump, nor Nolan's mother, nor anybody on their team can issue a subpoena or a directive or give permission for somebody else's boat to be searched. So when that was put to Crump, he doesn't have the authority to do that. He's a lawyer. He knows that. And it's not the friend's prerogative either. It's law enforcement needs to go do it.
Correct.
I can't come search your home. That would be trespass.
Correct.
Law
Even if he's
enforcement has
the
to do it. That's a yes, no. I don't need a legal discourse. Yes or no?
Yes.
Hi guys, Nancy Grace here. Please join us on Crime Stories and stream it first on Fox 1. When breaking crime news develops, we investigate it and bring it to you. Bombshell updates, answers to unanswered questions from cases making the headlines and cases you may never have heard of until Crime Stories. We go inside investigations with exclusive interviews, crime victims, families seeking justice, investigators, experts, and sources from within the case itself. Stay on top of the nation's biggest trials with us, including gavel-to-gavel coverage with real-time analysis. Crime Stories with Nancy Grace. Stream it first on Fox 1. I hope to see you there, and thank you, friend. Back to Officer Brandon Tatum. He's the star of The Officer Tatum on YouTube. So, Officer Tatum, let me understand. I don't know, and I don't think you know, where Nolan Wells' phone is. The family may have it, or it may have been seized or handed over to law enforcement. And if it hasn't, then they, law enforcement, need to issue a warrant for it. It's really not hard. You've executed warrants before, I'm sure. So have I.
Well, you're going to have a reason to get a warrant. And if it's a criminal investigation and they believe that they can find evidence of a crime, if they had access to his phone, I could see them getting a warrant to extract his phone outside of the parent's will. But if you're looking at a potential drowning and there is no criminal element involved, and the parents are refusing to give over the phone, they don't believe it's any material evidence there. No, I'm saying this is what the law enforcement agency.
These questions anymore.
Nancy,
I'm
this is
not
what the law
saying
enforcement.
they're
I'm giving you a law
refusing
enforcement
or
perspective.
Nobody said Nolan. You know what? We're really chasing our tails here. We don't know that Nolan's family has refused to hand over the phone. My simple question to you is, law enforcement, if they want the phone, get a warrant for the phone. Go get the phone. Or
Nancy,
communicate to the family, give me the phone.
Nancy, there could be two things afoot. I'm not a part of the investigation, but I can see if they haven't gotten the phone yet, it's because they don't need the phone and they don't want the phone. It's not there of evidentiary value if there is no suspect here. If it was a drowning and there's indications of a drowning, they may not need it, Nancy, so they're not going to go get it. If they need it, they would have already had it a month ago.
Stop. Okay. Brandon Tatum, are you a medical examiner?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Because what I have been told, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't smile at me. It's not working.
I'm trying.
From what I understand, let's go to the expert. Joe Scott Morgan is joining me, Joseph Scott Morgan, Professor of Forensics, Jacksonville State University, world-class criminal program, author of Blood Beneath My Feet on YouTube, star of a hit series, Body Bags with Joe Scott Morgan, death investigator, over 10,000 death investigations under his belt. Joe Scott, it's my understanding, correct me if you know differently, or Susan Hendricks, Dave Mack, jump in, please, feet first. Both medical examiners have stated to the effect, one says, undetermined now, because we're waiting on, I think, toxicology. We don't know the answer. The second one has said, undetermined cause of death. That's a yes, no. Isn't that true? We don't have a cause of death yet.
That has been made public. No. They said last week.
So
Hang on.
Tatum,
they said last week. They said last week that the autopsy report is complete, which means they have tox, histo, and they've probably got a cause of death.
Okay, but we don't have the cause of death.
We don't. It has not been released yet.
And the second examiner said undetermined.
Yeah, because he didn't have any organs to examine.
Exactly. Officer Tatum, you keep saying it was a drowning. I have responded, are you a medical examiner? You said no. So, how do you know what happened other than what you've been told? I don't know what happened. I don't know if he was hit on the head. I don't know if he got drunk and drowned. I don't know. So how do you know?
I have to push back on you on this. I did not say it was a drowning. I gave you two options. I said the police could be investigating a crime, and if they're investigating a crime and they have suspects and they need evidence, they will extract the phone with a search warrant against the family's will. If they do not believe that they're investigating a crime that's been committed and it is a drowning, according to them, they may not need the phone. So they're not gonna do a warrant to extract the phone against the family's will. So that's all I'm saying, Nancy. I did not say I know for a fact whichever way it went. I really don't know, and nobody knows except for the people that are investigating.
I heard you.
No, I just made mention that they may be investigating it as a drowning. The initial findings, or at least the initial report that came out. Are you going to make mommy
do a playback? Am I going to have to do a playback?
Nancy, I did not say that it was a drowning. I said that they could have investigated as a drowning or as a suspect involved in a murder, and that's why they would do certain things and not do others.
My point is, Tatum, we don't know the answer, and this is an investigation to find out what happened. And when you have an investigation, you subpoena documents, items, testimony. There's a grand jury set. That means there is an investigation. You know what a grand jury is, right? They investigate. They have two tasks. One, as an investigation arm. Two, as a charging arm. In both cases, they gather evidence. If they find out this was an accidental drowning, so be it. If they find out he had help getting drowned, so be it. Our point here, and with this, I think you agree, is not to harm anyone's reputation, bury somebody unwarrantedly, name the wrong person. I'm not naming anybody. I want to know what happened to Nolan. I don't understand why so many people are upset about that. And speaking of drowning, I'm actually glad you brought that up, Tatum. To Joe Scott Morgan, death investigator, it could be that he did drown, but that does not rule out foul play. It doesn't rule it in. It doesn't rule it out. Explain.
Yeah, you're correct. I mean, drowning, just so you understand, if somebody, say for instance, has a head injury, right, and they fall into a body of water, all right, that can lead to drowning, right? Because they might still be unconscious but capable of breathing. And of course, if you're in a water environment, you're going to be taking on water. I've worked cases where water has actually been weaponized as a means to take someone's life. But I've also worked, Nancy, a lot of cases involving accidental drownings where people fall over the side of boats. I've even had homeless guys that have passed out face down in mud puddles and have drowned. You never can predict, how any of this is going to happen. All we can do in the morgue, the medical legal community, is assess what we see at that moment in time. When we're trying to look at the lungs, we're trying to look actually at the inner ear. That's one of the areas that we go to with drowning. And we try to assess the brain as well, because you can have the brain begin to swell in these certain circumstances. So there is a huge recipe that goes into this when you're trying to do a fatal diagnosis here. When you're trying to come up and make this assessment, you want to do it necessarily. I think it's best you try to do this independent of maybe what the police are saying, what friends are saying. You objectively look at the science of what's before you, and then after that, you go back in and factor in some of the circumstantial information.
You're seeing video given to us by Officer Tatum's show. Look at all the people out there. Speaking of witnesses, Joe Scott, you dead on. Thanks, Tatum. Because you know what? Somebody saw something, somebody knows something, and they are not coughing it up. And we're going to keep on until they do. Now, speaking of the friends, as you call them, I have no reason to believe them or disbelieve them. This is what you told me earlier. Back to Officer Tatum, star of The Officer Tatum on YouTube. Have the friends taken polygraphs?
Well, from my understanding, all but I believe one took a polygraph, and from what was told to me, that they all passed. And all of the ones that took a polygraph took one without a lawyer. And they cooperated with law enforcement. So from my understanding, everybody took
Why
a
do you say
polygraph
that's
test
from
but
what
one.
you understand? Did they tell you they took a poly and passed?
Yes, ma'am. They told me that they did it. I wasn't there. So that's why I'm saying from my understanding. They told me that all the boys except one, which is Warren, I believe, took a polygraph test. All of them did not have lawyers and did it and cooperated with police. Warren also cooperated with police. I just believe he didn't take a lie detector test, but Warren is the young man that I interviewed. So according to what they told me, they all took a lie detector test and passed. And it's an equivalent of a lie detector test. It's not a traditional lie detector test, but it's the same theology of trying to get to if a person is lying. I don't know the name of it. It's an equivalent of a lie detector test. It's a different methodology. I don't believe it was a polygraph test. I believe they took other stressors in order to analyze if the people were telling the truth or not.
Did they take a polygraph would be no. Officer Tatum, number one, they did not take polys. Number two, Warren, as you refer to him, did not take the voice analysis. Why did he not take a voice analysis? Number one. And number two, since we spoke on this last, have they taken polys? And if not, why not?
Okay, let me just make sure clear, because I think the internet went in a frenzy about this. It's a computer voice stress analysis is what I was referring to. None of this is admissible in court, and I don't think it has the weight to concern anybody or whether or not anyone took it or not. I just thought it was important to show the cooperation that they had with the police. Even more cooperation, I believe, almost than the Nolan family. I mean, the boys have given their phones over to the FBI voluntarily, and we still haven't gotten Nolan's phone from the family to the police. So,
are you back on the phone? Because you don't know. You've already said you don't know where the phone is. It could be sitting on the sheriff's desk for all I know.
If they did it in the last 10 minutes, maybe that could be true.
Oh, so you knew before you joined us tonight that Nolan's family had not handed over the phone?
Well, I have no information to believe it was handed over. The last report from their attorneys that they hadn't handed it over.
So that was your, quote, understanding, just like you had an understanding that they took a poly and then clarified they did not take a poly. Okay, they have not taken a poly. You don't know why Warren hasn't taken a test. And a computer stress test is a voice analysis. It's not the same as a poly. You also, I asked you earlier, are you a medical examiner? And you stated no. I know you're a star on YouTube. I know you have a huge following. I know you're highly popular. I know you're a former police officer. Are you a Juris Doctor? Are you a lawyer?
No, I'm not. I've worked with lawyers.
Okay, because polygraphs are admissible in court. Bam! Providing,
Nancy,
providing both parties stipulate ahead of time that they will be allowed. I don't care if you've never heard of it.
Nancy is not gonna. I don't know of a trial that has happened, from my understanding, in recent time, that somebody put a polygraph before a jury and it was effective. I mean, there is a lot of flaws in the polygraph test.
Have you ever heard of? Let's see, what was his name? Control room. Oh yeah, O.J. Simpson.
Well, that was a long time ago. I'm saying
in the civil trial and showed he was a big fat liar.
Well, what I'm saying is there has not been significant usage of polygraphs in the court of law because there's too many flaws. Even as a police officer, we don't even use polygraphs anymore. Most police departments use the computer voice stress analysis. And neither one of them,
that's not true.
I would trust. Most police departments do not use the polygraph test anymore. They're moved towards the computer stress analysis. My head of security, when he went to the police department, they used the computer stress analysis. And it's not even foolproof. I mean, I would not trust somebody to use that for anybody's statements.
Did they take a polygraph? In the famous words of the Bard, Shakespeare.
Nancy,
don't dust the test too much. All I said was, did they take a poly? The answer is no.
They took a voice stress analysis.
Hi guys, Nancy Grace here. If you are a homeowner, you've probably thought, should I call American Financing to refinance and pay off this debt? But you don't because of your low mortgage rate. That low rate, it's not saving you if you're drowning in credit card interest. People are calling American Financing, and American Financing is saving customers an average of $800. That's not in all, that's a month, by using their equity to pay off the credit card debt. Using their home equity to pay off credit card debt. No upfront fees. It costs you nothing to find out what you could be saving. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. American Financing, 866-888-0344. Repeat, 866-888-0344. Or just go online to americanfinancing.net/Nancy. Disclaimer, NMLS 182334, NMLSconsumeraccess.org, APR for rates in the 5S start at 6.327% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 866-888-0344 for details about credit costs and terms. Go to http:// www.americanfinancing.net/Nancy. Average savings are based on borrowers who save over $199.99. And good luck. Joe Scott Morgan explained to Tatum why a voice stress analysis is not the same as a poly. It analyzes your voice. A poly does your heartbeat, your rhythm, your perspiration, your blood pressure, whether you're sweating, your eye blinking, the whole kit and caboodle.
I can address why it's certainly not admissible. Either one of these are not admissible and in criminal court. Okay. And that they
Pause
have no
right there. Hold on. Before you take one more step, are you a lawyer and nobody told me? Go ahead, get mad. I don't care. You're not a lawyer. Dubé, you are a lawyer. Dubé, isn't it true that if both parties stipulate ahead of time in a criminal case, which practically never happens, but if they do, that poly is allowed in court?
If the judge deems it relevant, it still has to meet the relevance.
So then, yes, don't go off on me. The answer is yes. We both know the law. It's a yes.
It's a yes. It's a hell yes.
Okay, so there you go, Morgan and Tatum. I hope you have learned something tonight. That said, Joe Scott, as much as I respect you as a death investigator, don't give me the law. Don't. I'll go to Dubé for that.
I'll give you forensic science. I'll give you forensic science, and I will tell you why neither one of these tests are. Yeah, okay, because they're not quantifiable. If you look at the Fry test, if you look at the Dauber test,
okay, never mind.
You cannot. No.
Stop.
Listen.
Do I need to Google it? Because I will.
I'm trying to give you.
Just
I'm trying
read
to give
it.
you some
Okay,
truth here
stop.
that has utility.
I asked you
Nancy.
the difference in a voice analysis and a poly. That's the question. Let me refresh your recollection. Do you know the difference?
No, I don't want to know the difference because it has no utility.
Okay, fine. That's all you had to say.
In a criminal
I'll tell you
case.
the difference. Okay. They are admissible if stipulated. A polygraph measures all sorts of data on your body. It is much more reliable than a voice analysis. For all I know, these friends took a voice analysis because it was readily available. I don't know why they did that over a poly. There could be an innocent explanation. They didn't have to do anything, but they did. They did do something, or at least most of them did. That's the question. I want to know, has the boat been searched? I want to know where the phone is. I want to know, have they taken a poly? Is that asking so much? To Tanya Jordan joining us, and Officer Tatum, please jump in if you have a question, if you want to contradict something. I want to know. I want to know the truth. To Tanya Jordan, she's Chief Parent Officer at BARC Parental Control. She's the author of Parenting in a Tech World. To Tanya, we were speaking to Heather Barnhart earlier tonight. Could you explain how a snap disappears and whether it can be grabbed back out of the cloud? The same thing with DMs. Same thing with text messages, photos. A lot of teens think because they hit delete, it's gone. It's not.
It's not. And with regards to Snap, if you send a photo or video and the other person hasn't opened it yet, it sits live on Snap's server for up to 30 days. Same with unread texts. Now, if law enforcement sends Snapchat a valid legal request before the message is deleted, Snapchat will freeze that data and hand it over. But if the message was already deleted before the police asked for it, Snapchat apparently cannot retrieve it.
Isn't it true, to Tanya Jordan, that modern technology can prove whether you have deleted anything? There is a digital trail showing if you have deleted photos, text messages, videos, all of that.
Absolutely. So many people don't even realize that on Apple phones, when they go to delete a photo, there's a whole folder in there called deleted photos where they live for at least another 30 days. Your digital trail is so hard to erase. It's why tech experts like myself tell you when you have old tech that you're no longer using, don't immediately recycle it. Don't throw it away. You've got to give it a water bath to fry every component inside of it, because you can dig up a digital trail very easily, and nothing disappears when you're dealing with technical aspects.
And so to you, Tatum, star of The Officer Tatum, we can find out if the friends are telling the truth. It's not going to be hard. They may be telling the truth. We didn't delete anything. That may be true. So it's a digital investigation, and frankly, it's not hard to do. The friends, who I believe now are your friends, after your extensive interviews with them, may be completely exonerated on that. Now, my question to you is, you're stating that the friends, I'm talking about the young men on the Triton, that the friends have handed over their phones.
Yes, ma'am. They've handed on their phones to the FBI voluntarily.
I find that very commendable, because do you know how hard it is to get people to hand over a phone? That's why you have to issue a search warrant or a ducus tecum. So they have handed over their phones voluntarily.
Yes, ma'am. According to the lawyer and according to what they told me, they said they handed over to the FBI voluntarily. And the sad part is that I wish that Nolan's phone could be evaluated, because there have been claims that had not been substantiated. And I believe that the claims should have never gone out in the public unless they were substantiated, that there was a potential that things were deleted from his phone, which put these young boys in a bad position unnecessarily. It's not fair to say that you're throwing out that things were deleted, but obviously mom can't determine if they were deleted because she couldn't do a forensic investigation on the phone, so she really don't know. Which I'm not
Unless
knocking
she
her as her
looked in
baby.
the deleted file and found things.
Well, she within Nancy,
the deleted file and found things, and we don't know
and
that
she would have
happened.
told.
And I agree with you. I
But
think
Nancy,
you
she
got
would have
me
told the
wrong. I
world.
think you got it bass backwards, Tatum. Nobody.
She would have told the
on Home
world
Stories
if she would have found. She would have told the world, Nancy, if she would have found certain things that were actually deleted. She would have come out. I'm sure Benjamin Crump would have come out, and I would commend her to come out and encourage her to. If she saw that a picture of Nolan was deleted, a text from Nolan was deleted specifically talking about or inferencing certain things. If any of those things had happened, I would guarantee it should be criminal if they would not turn it over to law enforcement so law enforcement can evaluate the phone and see if there were individuals communicating or deleting communication, because that is a crime. We just seen that happen in Texas where young boys, there's a young man that drowned. They go and delete stuff off his phone, throw his clothes in the water, and they were arrested for tampering with evidence. And so if there had been deletions on the phone, even if there hadn't been a determination that anyone had murdered Nolan, tampering with evidence or deleting evidence, potential evidence, is a crime. And so the fact that the family, from my understanding and what the lawyers have said, that they haven't given this information over to law enforcement for them to evaluate, it's very troubling to me.
Okay, again, for the millionth time, you don't know they haven't. And I don't know that they have. But what you're saying about tampering with evidence is absolutely true. But I have no reason to believe that Nolan Wells' family has tampered with evidence. That said, I think you've got things backwards. I do not want to convict or hang an innocent person. All I want to know is what happened. And I haven't even gotten to the Cito call. Is it real? Is it fake? I'd like somebody, i.e. you, if you have the original, to put it out there. But that's it. What? Don't go off on that. Susan Hendricks joining us. Susan Hendricks is a veteran investigative journalist. She's the author of the bestseller Down the Hill, My Descent into the Double Murder in Delphi. She exhaustively researched and investigated the double murder of 2 little girls and came to the truth. Susan Hendricks, you've heard all of the evidence that we've got tonight, and there's so much more we haven't gotten to. I want to hear where things stand now. Is there a grand jury? Is there going to be a grand jury? Where is the phone? Was the boat searched? Just enlighten me in any way that you can, Susan Hendricks.
There is a grand jury. They are investigating. You mentioned Delphi. There's hints of this to me, meaning it's being tried in the court of public opinion. And it's troubling to me that we talk about the mom and we don't know that she didn't hand over the phone. So now she has to go on defense. And as Officer Tatum said, the boat has not been searched by cadaver dogs. So we know that. Grand jury is investigating, and the parents have to suffer through this. And also, all attorneys have to say is, I don't think it's my understanding that she didn't hand over the phone. She wants to know what happened to her son. She wants to know, why wouldn't she hand over the phone? It's just obscene that she has to suffer through this even more.
Well, you hit the nail on the head right there, and you answered a very serious and critical question, and that is, there is a grand jury. Everything Tatum is saying and everything I'm saying, you know that phrase in the Bible, Tatum? We are now looking through a mirror darkly. We're looking through a very murky, grimy glass because we don't know. You are saying one thing. I'm questioning that because we don't know. And in the middle of it all, we have got a dead body of Nolan Wells. I don't want to get tangled up in arguments and vitriol that detracts from finding the truth. And I don't take anybody at face value. I don't suspect anybody, and I suspect everybody. I can't tell who's telling the truth. But we will, God help us, find out what happened to this young man.
A boat pulls away from a remote island at dusk. 5 friends aboard, 1 seat empty. Somewhere behind them, in darkening water, a 19-year-old is gone, and no one on that boat turns around. That's the moment investigators keep coming back to, not the search that followed. not the autopsy that's still sealed. That moment, when the engine roared to life and the island shrank behind them, phoneless, silent, and short one passenger. Tonight we're asking the question his family is still asking. Why did everyone come back except Nolan Wells? Before we go further, this case involves the death of a young man, and some of what we cover tonight touches on evidence, forensics, and details that may be disturbing to some viewers. Please take care of yourself as we go through this. If this is your first time here, welcome to True Crime Newsroom. Hit subscribe so you don't miss where this story goes. And drop a comment below letting us know what city or country you're watching from tonight. If you want more true crime coverage like this, share this video with someone who needs to see it. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Nolan Xavier Wells was 18 years old. He was a wide receiver at Southwest Mississippi Community College, heading into a new season, with his family describing him as a young man just beginning to find his footing in life. On the evening of July 3rd, he told his parents he'd be spending the 4th of July weekend with friends. Later that night, he left home. The next day, Independence Day, Wells traveled by boat with a group of friends to Horn Island. Horn Island is a barrier island roughly 10 miles off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Federally protected, undeveloped, and accessible only by boat. There's no bridge, no ferry service, nothing but open water between the mainland and the shoreline. On July 4th, that shoreline was crowded. Roughly 300 people had gathered there for the holiday, many of them former high school classmates from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, turning an isolated stretch of federal land into an impromptu holiday party for a single afternoon. Wells was part of that crowd. What's known, without dispute, is this. He arrived on the island by boat with his friends. At some point that afternoon, the group he came with got back into their boat and returned to the mainland. Wells did not go with them. His mother, Christine Wansley, expected him home that night. When he didn't return, she reported him missing just before midnight on July 4th. That report set off a multi-day search effort involving local and state authorities, working to cover a remote, difficult-to-access stretch of coastline. In the days that followed, as the search continued, Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter gave the public the department's first account of what investigators understood so far. Speaking to ABC News, Ledbetter said, "Nolan Wells was on a boat. He left from a private dock area in the Ocean Springs area and proceeded with his friends to Horn Island." He continued, "They left and went back without Nolan. From what we understand, he chose to stay there." That is the sheriff's characterization of events, based on what investigators had gathered at that point in the case. Not a final determination, and not something that's gone unquestioned. It's also notably one of the only official on-the-record statements about what happened that afternoon that exists this early in the timeline. Everything else, why Wells stayed behind, what happened between him and the group before they left, what happened to him after, remains, at this stage, unknown. What we do know is that the search for Nolan Wells was now underway, spanning a remote federal island with limited access, difficult terrain, and no shortage of people who'd been there that day but hadn't yet been formally interviewed. That search would not take long to produce an answer, though not the one his family was hoping for. If you want to follow this case as it develops, because there is still a lot we don't know, and new details are emerging even now, this is the place to do that. Subscribe to True Crime Newsroom, and we'll keep you updated as the investigation moves forward. The search for Nolan Wells continued through the weekend, covering the waters and shoreline around Horn Island. On Monday, July 6th, 2 days after he was last seen, a search crew found a body in the water off the island's coast. Confirming the identity wasn't immediate. Just before 1 in the afternoon, Nolan's family confirmed on social media that the person found was Nolan. His mother posted on Facebook, telling the public directly that her son had been found. Formal identification followed shortly after, when coroner Bruce Lind confirmed to local news that the body matched Nolan through dental records, a standard method used when a body has been in water long enough that visual identification isn't reliable. Within hours of that confirmation, the family had retained legal representation. Attorney Ben Crump, a nationally known civil rights and personal injury lawyer, who has represented families in a number of high-profile cases involving black victims, announced he'd been brought on to represent the Wells family. In a statement released by his office, Crump said his legal team would conduct an independent review of the circumstances surrounding Nolan's death and would press for the timely release of records, witness accounts, and autopsy findings. On social media, he wrote that the family deserved answers and called on investigators to pursue the case with urgency and transparency. That call for transparency led to something unusual in a case like this: 2 separate autopsies. The first was the official autopsy, conducted by the state of Mississippi, performed at the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office Coast Lab. The second was commissioned independently by the Wells family, through Crump's legal team, and conducted by forensic pathologist Dr. Roger Mitchell in Washington, D.C. Independent, family-commissioned autopsies aren't uncommon in cases where trust in the official process is in question. They give a family their own set of findings, conducted separately from the state, which can later be compared against the official results. Both autopsies reach the same conclusion, at least for now: undetermined, pending further investigation. In forensic terms, that ruling means examiners were not able to establish, from the physical evidence available to them, a definitive cause or manner of death. Not homicide, not accident, not natural causes. It's a placeholder finding, not a dead end. Medical examiners often issue an undetermined ruling when they're waiting on additional testing, toxicology results, further analysis of tissue samples, or additional investigative findings that could shift the picture once they're complete. As of the most recent public reporting, no cause of death has been released for Nolan Wells. There is one more fact about this case that's relevant to understanding why it drew national attention as quickly as it did. Nolan Wells was the only black person in the group of friends who traveled to Horn Island and returned that afternoon without him. Photos from the day, showing Wells alongside a group of white friends, spread widely across social media in the days following his death. That detail alone doesn't explain what happened to him. Nothing currently public does. But it is a documented part of why this case escalated from a local missing persons story into one followed across the country, and why it drew scrutiny of the investigation itself, not just the events on the island. With 2 autopsies inconclusive and national attention mounting, the questions in this case were only beginning. The most contested question in this case has always been the same one: what happened to Nolan Wells' phone? According to reporting from News Nation and other outlets, family members retrieved the phone from the home of one of Wells's friends on the evening of July 4th, using a phone locator app to track it down. Wells's family said he was an active Snapchat user, but there were no posts or messages from roughly the 24 hours before they recovered it. On July 15th, the family's attorneys and the district attorney's office reportedly agreed to a joint forensic examination of the phone, meaning both sides' experts, and possibly the FBI, would examine it together. That agreement became a flashpoint. Tyler Cox, an attorney representing 3 of Wells's friends, Warren Hudson, Jax Patalo, and Morgan Seymour, publicly claimed in mid-August that the family still hadn't turned the phone over, saying he was willing to stake his reputation on it. Attorneys for the Wells family pushed back directly. In a letter to prosecutors, family attorney Ahmad Smith stated plainly that any suggestion the family had failed to cooperate was not accurate. Separately, in correspondence sent to District Attorney Angel Myers McElrath on August 13th, the family's legal team said Nolan's parents remained willing to facilitate the examination exactly as agreed on July 15th, but said they were still waiting on a formal chain of custody protocol before handing the device over, something they said is standard practice to preserve the integrity of the evidence. They also said a 48-hour deadline had been set while the family was out of state, which they argued wasn't a good faith way to move the process forward. So, as of the most recent reporting, there are 2 competing accounts: friends' attorneys saying the phone hasn't been turned over, and the family's attorneys saying they never refused. They're waiting on the logistics of the handover to be finalized. Neither side disputes that a joint examination was agreed to. What's disputed is why it hasn't happened yet. There's also the question of what investigators have been looking into beyond the phone. Reporting from CNN indicates investigators have asked the public for original, unedited photos and videos taken on the island that day, specifically those that might depict an alleged altercation or that show Wells himself. That detail comes directly from investigators' public requests for evidence. It has not been confirmed publicly whether such an altercation took place, who might have been involved, or whether it has any connection to what happened to Wells afterward. It's a lead being pursued, not a finding. In early August, more than a month after Wells's body was found, two of the friends believed to have been with him that day, Warren Hudson and Jax Patalo, returned to Horn Island themselves. Their attorneys, Edward Andrew Paltzik and J. Tyler Cox, told CNN the two young men spent roughly 3 hours on the island to, in their words, understand its layout and the dynamics of that day. The attorneys described it as an emotional afternoon for both of them. A third friend, Morgan Seymour, had reportedly planned to join, but the arrangement changed. It remains unclear, based on available reporting, exactly what their unofficial visit was meant to accomplish, or whether it will factor into the official investigation at all. What's worth remembering here is the difference between what's being asked and what's actually known. Investigators are asking about a possible altercation. Attorneys on both sides are asking each other about a phone. Friends are asking their own questions by walking the island themselves. None of that is the same as an answer. As of now, there is no public finding tying any of these threads to a cause of death, and no one, not the sheriff's department, not the district attorney, not either legal team, has said otherwise. This is exactly the kind of case where new details can surface quickly, and where today's open question might be answered by next week, or might not be answered for months. If you want to be here when that happens, subscribe to True Crime Newsroom. We're following this one as it unfolds, not after the fact. Beyond the disputes over the phone and the island, this case is now moving through a formal legal process, and understanding that process matters, because it shapes what can and can't be known right now. District Attorney Angel Myers McElrath has said the investigation into Nolan Wells' death will be presented to a grand jury. In Mississippi, as law professor Ronald Reichslack has explained, most felony cases move through a grand jury, typically made up of 15 to 25 citizens who review the evidence a prosecutor presents and then decide whether that evidence supports criminal charges. Crucially, a grand jury doesn't determine guilt or innocence. Its job is narrower than that. It decides whether there's enough evidence to formally charge someone with a crime in the first place. Because the case is headed to a grand jury, the evidence gathered so far, witness statements, forensic findings, investigative reports, is being kept sealed rather than released publicly. That's a standard practice, not something unique to this case. Prosecutors generally avoid releasing evidence piecemeal ahead of a grand jury review, in part to protect the integrity of the process and avoid influencing witnesses or public perception before the evidence is formally weighed. As of the most recent reporting, here is the case's actual legal status. No charges have been filed against anyone. No cause of death has been publicly released, from either the state's autopsy or the independent one commissioned by the family. No one has been named a suspect. The joint forensic examination of Nolan's phone, agreed to back on July 15th, has still not taken place. Separately from the legal process, a financial incentive has entered the case. Reverend Al Sharpton, who delivered the eulogy at Wells's funeral, announced a $100,000 reward for information that helps clarify the circumstances of his death. Half of that amount is being covered by actor and producer Tyler Perry, who also covered the cost of the funeral. The stated purpose of the reward is straightforward: to encourage anyone with relevant information, photos, or video from that day to come forward, particularly if they haven't already spoken with investigators. Underneath all of this is a family still waiting. Christine Wansley and Elmore Wansley have said publicly that even in their grief, they're trying to work in good faith with the district attorney's office. Reporting has also noted that speculation and threats have circulated online toward people connected to this case, on multiple sides. That's part of why sticking to what's actually confirmed, rather than filling gaps with assumption, matters here. Nothing about this case has been legally resolved. It is, right now, still an open investigation. That's where things stand with the death of Nolan Wells. An active investigation, a sealed evidence file, and a family still waiting for a cause of death that hasn't been made public. No charges, no suspects named, no resolution. We're not going to manufacture an ending this case hasn't reached yet. When the grand jury moves, when the phone examination happens, when there's an actual cause of death, we'll cover it in full, with the same approach we've taken tonight. If that's the kind of coverage you want to see, subscribe to True Crime Newsroom. We'll be here when this case actually resolves, not before.